Asus VivoBook S530 improves on last year's VivoBook S510 and should be one of the most popular notebooks in its class of compact and affordable all-round computers in 2018. Most of the improvements are aesthetic though, corroborated with a hardware update and a new and slightly more comfortable-to-use keyboard, but potential buyers would still have to live with the rather small battery life and dim IPS screen. Read on for the whole story. VivoBook S530 builds on last year's VivoBook S510 series with a new design, new color schemes, a new keyboard and an updated hardware platform. The entry-level models are expected to start at about $500, with the good all-rounders powered by a modern i5 processor, with 8 GB of RAM, 256 GB SSD storage and an IPS FHD screen going for around $700 at launch. As already mentioned in the intro, the S530 series is also available as the VivoBook X530 in some regions of Europe, or as the VivoBook F530 with some US retailers. As far as we know, these are all the same. Design and first look. Aesthetically, the S530 has a few particularities that make it stand out of the crowd. First of all, there are the color schemes, as this series is available in either icicle gold, gunmetal, silver blue, star gray or firmament green, as you can see in the pictures below, each with different color shades for the interior, outer shell, and the trim around the edges. We got to test the latter, the green option. Last but not least, there's the smaller bezel around the top and sides of the actual display, as well as the new textured material used for the interior, which I'd reckon should age better than the smooth surfaces on some of the older VivoBooks. Despite those smaller bezels though, the VivoBook S530 is in fact marginally larger and heavier than the previous generation, mostly due to the implemented ergo lift hinge. As far as the build quality and choice in materials goes, the S530 is still mostly made out of plastic, with a sheet of brushed metal covering the hood, and there's still some flex in the main body and keyboard deck, although the overall build seems a little bit sturdier than on last year's S510 models. This laptop is also fairly practical. There's a notch that allows to easily lift up the screen with a single hand. There are no sharp bits and corners. The palm rest is spacious enough to accommodate your hands, and as mentioned earlier, it sits nicely on a flat surface. The hinge only goes back to about 140 degrees, which is fine for desk use, but rather limiting in other situations. Flipping the laptop upside down, you'll notice a very simple plastic underbelly, with a smooth texture, as well as cuts for the speakers and a small air intake grill on top of the single fan that keeps the hardware at bay. And there's pretty much all you'd expect from such a computer, including a mix of USB-A and USB-C ports, HDMI for video output and a card reader, but for some reason Asus went with a microSD option and not the full-size SD standard. We should also add that most of the connectors, including the power plug, HDMI, and headphone jack, are on the right side, which can lead to unwanted clutter for right-handed users when connecting peripherals. Screen. There's a 15.6-inch screen on the VivoBook S530, with a matte finishing and narrow bezels around its upper and side edges, with still enough room to incorporate the webcam and microphones at the top. Asus offers two screen options for this series, a TN1366x768px panel and an IPS 1920x1080px option. We've got the latter on our test unit and we'd recommended steering away from the TN panel. Both the resolution and the viewing angles are just not worth it in this day and age.